Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Hotdog and a Handshake. It has been a really long time
In a
since
minute.
we've done a podcast interview, but we are back. And not only are we are back with the drama king himself, Matt Rehwoldt, formerly known as Aiden English, WWE superstar. Thank you very much for being on our show today, Matt.
Yeah, no, guys, thank you for happening. Excuse me. Thank you for happening. Yes, thank you for
Yeah,
having
glad
me.
we're happening.
This is my first
happening.
business of the day. I haven't done my vocal warm-ups. That's the key.
There it is.
Well, maybe toward the end here we can get treated to some of that.
There you go.
We'll see how it plays out.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, we want to welcome you to the Hot Dog and a Handshake podcast. Like I said, you are the first guest we've had, and oh, Mike, how long's it been? 9 months, 6 months?
Been months. Yep.
Been a long time.
Well, happy to be that.
Yeah,
COVID
glad,
got real deep there for a minute. It was just it was a little harder to get guests.
Absolutely.
Things are starting to slowly but surely change. Obviously, WrestleMania started last night, and it was
full crowd.
It was neat to see people back in the crowd. I think it presented a different experience than a room full of screens. I don't know what that's like personally. I mean, I think it'd be neat to see. It's a cool concept, but it just makes
it's
such
definitely
a
helped
difference.
along the way. But I was ready for a live crowd. Yeah,
100%.
Definitely.
I'm not afraid. I got a little emotional as Mania started, and I seen that crowd and everybody. It just comes like it's been a long year. I was definitely ready for that.
Yeah, it definitely has been a long year. So what has you been doing over this last year? I mean, obviously, I'm guessing not getting out too much until fairly recently show wise, but what's been occupying your time the most?
So, I mean, it's been a lot of things. So like you said, at the beginning, or like not even the beginning, it was like, there was that time everything was literally standstill kind of thing, right? And so it was locking in and staying home. And then like there was that brief period in like late summer, people were like, okay, maybe it'll be okay, we'll do limited things. And so I did like 1 or 2 shows here in the Chicago area, and then like there was that, okay, crap, nope, at least especially up here up north, it was like, nope, we're not out of this. And so everything kind of went back into hibernation. So it's just that brief kind of, I got out there for a second. But other than that, I mean, we kind of were joking about it off air before we started, but I came on here we're recording this via Zoom, and I am proud. I've got a nice little setup going here, and I've spent a lot of my time over the last year diving into digital content creation, live streaming, YouTube, Twitch. I took my whiskey kind of, which I've been doing it for kind of as a side project, my like whiskey hobby, I guess I'll call it. That I've had an Instagram and I've had this YouTube, but I've kind of just dove into that more head on, creating more content, started a podcast in the whiskey world and stuff too. So that has been a whole thing that started off as something to try and occupy my time, and has delved into like a new passion and like a new like potential career kind of zigzagged for me. So it's been a surprising.
You're like a whiskey aficionado, then you know your flavors.
Oh, that would be an understatement, my friend. I mean, I am like, aficionado is so pretentious. I'm just a whiskey dork. Like if I wish there was a word, like a single word, like Trekkie, like for people who were like, Star Wars fan or Star Trek fans. Oh God, that would have been a sin if I would have said that. But yeah,
we would edit that out.
But whatever that is for like whiskey fans and people, yeah, that's me.
Now we have to think of what we would call that. Whiskers comes to mind, but
Whiskers ain't bad.
Whiskers isn't bad. Well, we need to copyright that and patent that right now before somebody steals it.
Yes.
Well, I mean, definitely sounds like you've been, doing something positive, something to occupy your time, keep your mind going, keep your brain stimulated, which is kind of hard to do in this time. But things are getting better now.
Mind-numbing TV is what I anymore.
Yeah.
I can't. I don't know if I can take any more of it.
That between that and like seeing like, so yeah, everyone, binging Netflix, binging Hulu and everything. And then of course now I feel like it happened a lot over this last year. Everybody has come out with their own. So now I always joke with people. I'm like, a lot of us cut the cable. I know I did. I got rid of my Comcast cable or whatever. And because it was like $100 a month for cable television. And so I'm like, all right, I got my Netflix, Hulu, and like Amazon's free with my Prime membership. So I'm like, I'm spending now like $30 a month, way better. And I get all the stuff I want. Well, now HBO's there, and now Peacock is there, and now that Paramount thing is there, and now this is. I'm like, we're back to $120 if I want to watch everything that I want. So they're getting us again.
They're doing it.
Yeah, they know what they're doing. They know exactly what they're doing.
Does it Comcast own Peacock anyway?
Technically, yeah.
Yeah. So
they're getting my money anyway. So they reeled me back in.
Yeah, they're like, we're getting you back in, fellas. So speaking of that, obviously, have you been a pro wrestling fan then your whole life, or is it just?
Oh yeah, I mean, so I wasn't like a lot of my friends were like 5 years old sitting on Grandpa's knee. No, I came in like probably, what was I? I was probably 12, 13 when I really which was 98, 99. I didn't have cable.
Good era,
yeah, right at the good time, right? I didn't have cable, so like I couldn't see early Raws and stuff like that, but catching up on wrestling, I first discovered it honestly through I don't know if you had it where you got Shotgun Saturday Night. Anybody remember that?
Oh yeah.
For us it was like this local WCIU kind of like smaller channel carried it Saturday nights. It was my way to kind of catch up what happened on Raw and like see a Taka Michinoku or S.A. Rios match and just finally see wrestling. And then the big thing for me was when SmackDown debuted on UPN network television in 99. And so that was like finally, and then it was snowballed from there. And then I was able to, we got cable television in like the summer of 2000. So then it was Raw every week. And then, I was able to get a job as a teenager. So I was able to afford pay-per-views with my friends and stuff like that. So then it was just everything.
Were you always WWF then or were you, WCW guy?
Yeah, so again, I wasn't exposed to like Nitro and stuff, a lot of that beforehand. So my first thing was WWF. So like just by kind of default, I became like a WWF like guy. And then also by the time I started learning about, there's this whole rivalry going on. And by the time I really got it, it was over. And so I was already a WWF guy, WWE guy at that point. So that was kind of my intro and my upbringing. So that's where my heart kind of always lied.
Man, talking about the old UPN network, man, it makes me feel old. I actually grew up outside of Chicago. I grew up around Hammond, Indiana.
Oh, yeah.
And I went to college in downtown Chicago. So I'm very familiar with those stations you were talking about, bringing back some memories there. So at what point did you decide, hey, I think I might want to pursue a career of professional wrestling? Because I don't know if it was your life goal, but you wanted to be on stage. Is that right?
Yeah.
I mean, you have been on stage.
Mm-hmm. So wrestling came first. That was ever since I fell in love with it when I was a kid, 12, 13 years old. I was like, this is awesome. I guess I wasn't probably until high school, maybe that's my sophomore year of high school, when I met one of my best friends in the world, still one of my best friends, Chris. We met on the gymnastics team of all places. And we met because we were making fun of pro wrestling because this was at a time when we're post Attitude Era. It's like 2003, 2004. Yeah. It's still there, but it's fallen out of vogue a little bit, right?
Yeah.
So it's not the cool thing like it was when I was in middle school at that age. Now in high school, there's less people. It's less of a, culture zeitgeist kind of thing, less people talking about it. So it's a little kind of dorky to like wrestling again. And so like we kind of hit it. And so we were on the team together and we noticed each other like faking moves over in like the crash pad or something in the corner of the gym. And like, so we both started like making fun of it together, but then like with this like underlying notion, like, well, if you know this much about it, you must watch it a little bit, right? And
Yeah,
like,
you must know a little bit about it.
yeah, right. And then it slowly was just like back and forth and back, and then it was finally like, do you really like it? Yeah, I do too. Okay, you want to come over to my house and watch Raw like on Monday? Okay, yeah, let's go.
Yeah, let's do that.
So we both, it was like this secret was out, and then do not, of course, condone any of this, kids. We would wrestle around in my trampoline in the backyard, and like we kind of had this realization of like, because we were like, again, we were on the gymnastics team, and so we had this kind of athletic ability, and in watching it, we knew it was a show. We knew, we knew it was a work at that point. So we were like, how do they do this? And so we would study it. Like we would sit there and not like, oh, look at that cool move. It was like, okay, how do they do that without hurting each other? If this is all a work, like that's fascinating to us. How do they do this while making it safe enough to do every day? Like that's fascinating to me. So we would practice like slipping slams and posting up and helping each other on different moves, and realized we kind of had at least what we thought. Again, we didn't know, completely untrained, which is again not condoning, but I'm like, I just had a feeling like I think I get this world, I get this activity, I get this sport, entertainment, whatever it is. I kind of just, something clicks for me. The idea of mixing this, again, almost like gymnastics, like athleticism, wrestling like athleticism, but with showmanship. Because I was never an athlete as a kid. Like God, I was an artsy fartsy kid, shy kid, music, video games, stuff like that, and it real like shoot sports intimidated me. They really did. I only joined the gymnastics team because mom and dad said you had to join a team. I don't care what it was, but you got to do something. And I had a trampoline and I could do a front flip. So I was like, all right, I'll go do gymnastics.
Foot's in the door there.
Yeah, so I can go flip around, and maybe it'll help me with wrestling, is what I had in my head. And that was the same thing with acting. I didn't start doing that till my senior year of high school. And my friend who was in the theater program was like, hey, try out for a show. And I was like, okay, why not? And I thought, hey, if this works or if this works out, this can only help me with wrestling because it's TV program, it's performing, it's large audiences. So if you can get used to that, that's only going to help you. So, and then I did fall in love with the acting side, just, as a whole art form itself, which is why I then went to college to study theater and acting.
It bites you the first play you do. I was the same way when I did my first musical in school. I was more kind of almost the same way you were doing with wrestling, kind of making fun of it,
Mm-hmm.
And so, I'll go in there and be your background singer or whatever, and it just bites you. You just get used. And I did 4 or 5 plays after that. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, for you.
Now, at that time when you were getting into the acting in school, I'm going to guess that you probably didn't realize the behind the curtain aspect of professional wrestling. Did you know that there was a performance model that you could base your theater off of in that profession? I mean, were you aware how closely those two things would be together in that industry?
I guess it's like, of course I didn't know because I wasn't, in wrestling, but I guess I had a hunch. I had no idea what the kind of preparation was like, what the backstage culture was like, but I had to imagine, I'm like, it's a similar thing. You have a character, you have a persona, you gotta kind of know that character inside and out, just like in acting. I mean, I didn't know all the ins and outs of the wrestling side. I didn't realize how, I guess, on the fly everything was, especially with the wrestling part. Because like me and my buddy, if we would do a little match on my trampoline, God, we would spend hours and days coming up with ideas to do it, and then a day or two practicing it, and then like if we wanted to film it on our little high 8 camera, we would do it. So like this is like a week-long process, and then you get into the business and where it's like just different shows every week. Sometimes you don't know who your opponent is till you show up to the show, and then you're throwing together a match in 30 minutes. We threw together. We had like one of my favorite stories and like most terrifying stories is, to skip ahead, when in the middle of the whole Rusev Day thing, we had it was right after Clash of Champions in 2017. We ended up doing the Christmas SmackDown in Chicago, actually. And we did a triple threat tag match with New Day, Shelton Benjamin and Chad Gable and us. And like, we knew the match was happening. So like it wasn't sprung on us, but like New Day had to film stuff like for Up Up Down Down and doing all this extra like charity stuff. And then like they needed so and so for this. So we couldn't really get together on anything until literally probably the show started at 7. We were in our gear, like putting our gear on in Gorilla, like because we were this opener and we had we all had a promo too. There were all three teams had promos. And so we're literally like putting our gear on 30 minutes before TV goes live, putting together this 3-way tag team match, which are always a pain in the ass. Triple threats in general, let alone triple threat tag, let alone a triple threat tag where for the first time they decided, hey, we're going to do it instead of 2 guys and you tag in and out. All 3 are in. 1 person from each team is in. Yeah. And so it's like a regular pain in the ass triple threat match with tag partners that we're all trying to put together in about 30 and 40 minutes tops. So that was stressful, but it ended up being one of my favorite matches ever. And it ended up being a really good damn match, actually.
It's a bunch of great workers too. So I'd imagine it was not that difficult to call between all of you guys.
No, I mean, everybody it's a great when you have people who, number one, are just good at what they do and are both, good at what they do and like generous. So you don't have that person who's like, no, you don't do that there. Everyone's like, yes, everybody do your stuff. Like, let's find out where everybody can do their stuff and make it cool and make like everybody just wants to be awesome. And so it's a really great collaboration.
So when did obviously you and your friend decided that, this is what you want to do. Did you guys go to wrestling school together or did you just kind of pursue it yourself? Or?
Yeah. So by the time, I went and I wanted to go to wrestling school right out of high school. I think we both, if we had our ducats, probably would have. We would have been those guys. But my parents his parents were stricter than mine. But mine were like, please go to college. Like, I don't care what it's for. That was their thing. They're like, go to college for it, or even go to trade school. Please go to secondary school though. Mm-hmm. Get a piece of paper that says I went to college. So if we believe in you, but in the worst case scenario, at least you have a degree, associate's, bachelor's, something, so you can go and do something else. So I was like, that makes sense. So I went to theater school, the most useful degree. And my buddy went to study law enforcement, and he really liked it. And that was like his other thing he'd always wanted to do all along. And he wasn't sure how supportive his parents would be if he pursued wrestling like hardcore. So he ended up pursuing the law, and he really fell in love with that too. And now he's a police officer here in Illinois as well. So he ended up just kind of following that other dream of his. So so I went to college and finished college. And then as soon as I was done with that was when I was like, okay, I'm looking for a place to go train.
And where'd you choose to go?
FCW beginners class.
Wow.
So
you started in Florida right away.
Yeah. So like a lot of people forget. So FCW was the developmental territory at the time for WWE in Tampa, Florida there. And it always gets confusing because I'm like, where'd you train? FCW. They're like, oh, like you got signed. I'm like, no. So like Steve Kern, who was the president of FCW, as a side gimmick, like a side hustle, would charge kids for training, like outside of training out, WWE developmental hours, like in the evenings on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. We 3-month class, but it was cool because it was taught by Norman Smiley, who was one of their great trainers and an incredible performer and human in his own right. And I went and did that because my theory was, especially at the time in Chicago, there wasn't a lot of great training around. And so I'm like, if I want to go to WWE, I'm going to at least go get trained by the guys who train the WWE developmental talent, at least see how they like to do things, how they train things and stuff like that. And I had a really great time. So that was I went down in January of 2011, took a duffel bag and moved into a stranger's house off Craigslist.
Like,
jeez.
And
okay.
Oh my God. The only reason I did it though, because I knew it was sketch, was because he had this little pool house where he rented a room too. And the guy renting that was also taking the same class as me. So another wrestler, 2 of us, one of him. I figured if the guy got weird, we could outnumber him at least. But it ended up being fine. It was barely ever saw the guy because he would like work all day when we were at home, and then we were usually out training or going out at night, and he was in bed by like 8 o'clock. So like I never saw the guy pretty much. And I just did that for 3 months. Lived in Tampa. Worked at a gym as just a kind of a maintenance man, janitor, and that was pretty much it. And then I came back here.
So what got you the obviously, did you get called back to Florida then? Is that where you?
Right. So I got signed shortly after that, which was a lot of luck and to turn in. It's like it's right place, right time sort of thing. What happened, and Norman Smiley will deny it to this day, is I went down there. I had a really great relationship with Norman. Worked really well with him, and all my mental and stuff prep. It did help because I did end up having a little bit of a knack for it. Like I thought I caught on to a lot of things really quickly. Norman said as much, and after I went home, I did 1 or 2 like indie shows here in Chicago. Because I came home in like April, and then in like September, Norman called me and was like, "Hey, talent relations reached out to me and asked me just randomly, like if I know anybody from my classes or from any of the stuff I've been doing who they would recommend to take a look at." And he goes, "And I put your name forward because I think you're a great young man and you have a bright future and stuff like that." He goes, "But I like no promises. I don't know if they'll get in touch with you, but I just wanted to let you know that they reached out." So I was like, "Yeah," I was like, "Thank you, cool." And about a little less than a month later, the guy in talent relations reached out with an email asking what I'd been up to, or sent him some pictures, a match that I had done, and then I barely remember the time. And then it was like I didn't hear from him for like another 3 weeks. So I was like, "Damn it, I blew my shot. They don't want me." And he emailed again saying something about like, "All right, I'll be in touch again." And I'm like, "Okay." And then out of the blue, like 2 more weeks later, Johnny Ace calls me. I wasn't expecting the call. I was personal training at the time, up at 4 a.m, home at like 11. And it's like noon. And I'm taking my nap and my phone rings, 203 number, which is Connecticut which is the infamous Connecticut number, which can be good or bad, depending on where you are. And I answered it, and sure, it's, the recognizable Johnny Ace voice. And he literally, the funniest part was he literally just dives into, barely says hello, like just dives into like the deal, like, "Hey, this is Johnny Ace, a talent relations, WWE. Just want to let you know we're going to offer you this. Have you blah, blah, blah. It's going to start here. We're going to have you move down to Florida. Okay. If you have any questions, you can talk to my secretary, so-and-so. Have a good day." Click. Like,
click.
I'm like, "What? What just happened?"
Yeah.
Did I just get ribbed or what?
Yeah.
Right. So so I ran around my house a couple times screaming and like a little kid. And and then a couple months later, reported down to Tampa, officially signed to developmental.
Who was all in that class with you? That signee class? That would you actually?
I mean, everybody, man. Like there were like.
Was Ambrose
I'm trying to
down there at that time?
Yeah. So I the first day, like I showed up on February 1st, which was like a Wednesday. Like I pulled into my apartment and threw my bags down. Thursday, they always do their shows and TV tapings on Thursday. So I was like, I think I was told I didn't have to report until like the next Monday, but I was like, I'm gonna go. I asked, if I asked if it was okay, could I go to the TV tape and just say hello to everyone and stuff. So I walk up the stairs in the back door, and who's sitting on the store is Moxley and Juice Robinson. And
Juice is doing pretty well for himself right now.
Juice is great. I'm hopefully going to talk to him soon. And so like, but it was cool that they were kind, but very who the hell is this guy? Yeah. A little bit. And I go in, and who was there? So I mean, Leo Kruger was there. Bray Wyatt was there when he was still, I think he was still Husky at the time. Bo Rotunda. I'm trying to, Paige was still early on. My wife was there. My future wife was there. Like Summer Rae. Big Cass had just started. Miro had recently started. He'd been there a couple months or something like that. Who else? Victor, Connor, the Ascension guys before they were the Ascension. Kenneth Cameron. Big E was there.
That whole NXT class was down there.
Yeah, Woods was down there.
You were there for the whole transition from FCW to NXT.
Yep. Which was very the night that TV taping, the night I showed up was the night they decided they put the FCW world title on Mike Dalton, which was later Tyler Breeze. And that was kind of his thing. Like, he would always been kind of not enhancement, but he was an enhancement kind of guy for TV talent. And then like had really worked hard and all this stuff, and like had been gaining popularity on FCW television. They kind of, the night I showed up was like the night they pulled the trigger on him, which was kind of cool. So to see that kind of go down was a lot of fun. And yeah, there was a ton of people in that class who ended up going on and doing some really awesome stuff.
Now, how long was it that the Vaudevillains came along? You know, whose idea was that? How soon did that happen from the time the ball got rolling with you?
So, I mean, yeah, I show up to FCW in like February of 2012. Do a lot of like the local Florida house shows and stuff like that. Again, I was kind of enhancement talent for guys, just kind of helping put people over, learning, training, all that stuff. Yep. And it wasn't until we transitioned to NXT and moved everything to Orlando, which happened in 2013. So like about a year and a half after I got there. Then kind of once that all started rolling and NXT TV was like a regular thing, they started the ball rolling on the drama, the artiste character. I came out doing the musical numbers and stuff like that. And then shortly, a little bit after that, I did that thing with Big Cass, the sing along and the little like kind of like feud we had. And after that, I think they didn't have anything on the table for me. And so they were kind of looking for something for me. And Simon had come in as with the first Performance Center class. And he'd been doing like the Rosebuds with Becky Lynch and Braun Strowman and like Elias and stuff. They've been on the road doing the Rosebud stuff. And so the story I'm told, and I've never had like 100% confirmation on this, but basically what they told us was at NXT TV, Hunter, they were looking for something for me. And Hunter had kind of noticed Simon, who always showed up to TV in gimmick, you know, mustache waxed, often in like a bow tie, looking like a proper gentleman sort of thing. And Hunter was just like, it's such an interesting look. Here's Aiden English with this over the top dramatic character. I'm like, I don't know, these performers, something, I don't know. Is there something there with those two? And so, you know, the coaching staff basically ran to us the next day at the PC and we're just like, hey, Hunter wants to see something with you as a tag team. You guys come up with something, you know, whatever, old school, or we kept hearing vaudeville thrown around. So I was like, okay. Wasn't expecting that. That's fine.
Airplane spins and elbow drops, right?
Yeah, right. So we kind of took a lot from his kind of thing he'd been doing on the indies, the quite manly, old school, you know, gentleman, strongman stuff. And I just kind of melded my artiste kind of thing into there. And so we kept hearing vaudeville. So we're like, yeah, we'll just be like old timey circus performers, essentially, who are manly men, but you know, who are on the show circuit sort of thing. Black and white, all this kind of stuff. And I went home that day and like vaudeville. I figured we were going to be bad guys because I was always a bad guy. I'm like, we'll be villains, vaudevillains. Like literally, that was it. I sat in the bed. I was like, vaudeville, we'll be bad guys, and villains, vaudeville. Okay, I'll try that, thinking it would be kind of chuckled at. And they were like, great, let's roll with it. And off we went.
Yeah,
that's good. You know,
I always loved the entrance for the vaudevillains. I always thought that was great. There were a lot of people that didn't like it, but I thought it was different, you know?
Yes.
I loved it.
It caught me right off the bat. I remember the first, you know, time I seen it, I'm going like, what the hell's this? You know,
you start hearing the film strip go.
Yeah, like
I thought it was great.
By the time the entrance started to when it was over, I was on board. Like it was like, you know, it was new, and I was like kind of like, what's this? By the time it was over, I was already on. I was like, this is great. Like this is just this. You didn't have anything like it.
Yeah.
You know,
no, and that's what helped us. That's what helped us stand out, especially at that time. And that was at a time when NXT was putting out a lot of like interesting, different out there characters and stuff too. Sure. So yeah, it was very cool. And I have to give a big shout out to Ryan Katz, who was kind of like the creative assistant at NXT at the time, kind of Dusty Rhodes' assistant, if you will. And he was a huge help in putting together both the idea of this, helping us kind of mold the vaudevillains ideas. And then he was a big help with the entrance. He was actually the carnival barker who comes out of the curtain and does the thing. So he helped us kind of come up with that entrance and stuff too.
Well, something must have worked because things really kind of picked up for you. Obviously, your next move was a SmackDown debut, which was had to be pretty neat for you. I mean, that's a big step up, I think. So what was that like? I mean, what tell us from your perspective, what's it like going from, we'll say, somewhere like NXT, where originally you said you got there early to introduce yourself, and I mean we all know what the feeling is when you walk into a new locker room for the first time. Everybody, of course, say, who's this guy? What's he want? What's he coming up to me for? What was that transition like when you moved up to SmackDown? Was it the same thing and repeat, or had you already kind of had your name out there where people started to know who you were?
So, yeah, I think by the time we had gotten called to SmackDown, to the main roster, if you will, the culture had already started to change a little bit. First, like, because I've talked to guys who, you talk to someone like a Zack Ryder, Kurt Hawkins, and when they were brought up, as the Major Brothers and stuff like that, I was just talking to them the other day, and it was like, that was still at the time when they got dressed with the extras for months before they were allowed in the locker room. Even though they were on, SmackDown every week, they're still, they got to earn their way in or whatever it is. And so, yeah, by the time though, we're talking 2016 now, NXT also was a thing, even though it was still a smaller show and it was on the network and stuff like that. People didn't know it, and it was getting more and more of a big deal. So like, people kind of knew you, and both from a talent side and a fan side. And so no, like, we were able to kind of come right into the locker room. And the other thing is too, a lot of the people came through NXT/FCW. So we knew a lot of those guys. I mean, New Day was guys that I trained with. Even Roman Reigns, by the way, who was still at FCW when I first got signed too.
Yeah.
He's the top dog there. He's the locker room general, but I still kind of technically knew him. He's not some, like, I'm not walking into the Undertaker for the first time.
Yeah.
Like, oh crap. But that being said,
could you tell at the beginning there of FCW that Roman was their guy?
Yeah. I mean, you knew it both from the way like that the office and like producers treated him, and just from like it was like, but you get it. Like, he's that guy, like the classic.
Yeah.
He walks in a room, he looks great. He's got this cool, dark, like handsome, like got that long hair, big guy. Look, just quiet. He's one of those people. Yeah, quiet, but like has that charisma. He is. You walk in a room and you notice him, and so like it was hard to deny that for sure. But when I got up to the main roster, to kind of continue on that point, while it was a much more comfortable environment than it may have been in years past, and like we get, like I said, a lot of friends already in there and stuff. But a lot of credit to Roman. Roman was a big believer, and at least when guys would come up from NXT and stuff, they're the ones, when you're not working, please watch the monitor back here, because we had a monitor in the locker room, watch the show, and was, kind of expected the new talent to hang out at the end of TV, which is a long day, and clean up the locker room at the end of the show, be one of the last ones to leave, clean up all the balls of tape or paper towels or whatever it was. And stuff. Yep. He was pretty good in both house shows and at TV for making sure that the new talent did that.
I paid your dues. I mean, it wasn't a little bit back in the day when you'd set the ring up or tear it down. This is kind of that for you guys.
Although we would do that in NXT, it's a small version of it, but we would do that. The talent had to set up and break down the ring at every house show, and even TV, even at NXT at Full Sail, we would have to, after everything was done, we'd have to go in, break the ring down, and because we'd have to bring it back to the Performance Center because they didn't let us keep it there. We didn't have a permanent arena there yet.
Oh wow, I never even thought of that. I always assumed it was just a permanent setup there.
No, because Full Sail would use that for like presentations and stuff like that in between our tapings. I don't know what the deal is now with the Capitol Wrestling Center. They have, obviously the relationship has grown so much. It could be a permanent kind of venue. But when we were there, it was, we were just in there for our taping and then pulled our stuff out, kind of like regular TV for WWE.
Now, when you were in
Well,
NXT, go back a little bit. Were you there for the start of the takeovers?
Yes.
Yeah. Now, how was that? I mean, obviously, you had this. You guys were hungry down there. And was that just another way you guys were like, all right, it's just another way we can prove ourselves now? And
Yeah.
I mean, because Takeover has a aura about it still to this day, where people know when I turn into Takeover, I'm going to see something. You know.
Yeah.
Now, was
Absolutely.
that has everything to do with you guys back then? Because I mean, you guys started that. You know, give you that match. You know.
Yeah. No, it
I
was really cool. It was
I would still get
first
NXT
one.
off of Hulu before it was on the network. You guys had some, it was on Hulu, and
That's right.
see Big E doing the whole 5-5-5 thing, and that was just. I thought NXT was great back then.
NXT was very cool. It was felt like it. Then to hunt, Triple H's credit, man, like you really did something unique there. Like you created this alternate vibe within the same company.
Yep.
Like we it's funny, they did with NXT what they always wanted to do, I feel like, with like Raw and SmackDown being, brand competition, where it's like nobody saw it that way. You know what I mean? It was all main roster TV. They just had different rosters. Nobody really cared about like the brand rivalries between red and blue. I don't know. I, as a fan coming up in that brand split era, I didn't actually like care about
me neither.
Raw
I
versus
didn't have a
SmackDown.
choice. Yeah.
Right? It just was what it was. But here, we kind of did, because it was like this idea of like developmental, but it was like this idea of like developmental F you, kind of thing.
Yeah. He pretty much took the indies and made his own indie.
We felt like I would talk to Sami Zayn about this. Feels like punk rock a little bit. We were like the punk rock to the mainstream pop music, and we were going to be here to disrupt the system. We're doing the same thing you're doing. It's pro wrestling, right? But we're going to do it different. We're going to do it better, and we're going to do it cooler than you're doing it.
In your face. Yeah. It was I mean, it reminded me a lot of when, obviously minus all the hardcore stuff, but it reminded me a lot of ECW when it first started. Like it had a chip on its shoulder, and we're gonna prove that we belong,
Even down to like when we would, and again, I imagine a lot of this came from Hunter and stuff like that. It's brilliant. Even the small things, like when they decided to first take NXT on the road, right, around the country. We didn't go, number one, we didn't go to big buildings because we knew we probably wouldn't fill those out quite yet. But we didn't do the usual wrestling thing and go to like sportatoriums or armories or anything. We went to music venues. We went to like these the theaters and music
Indianapolis and
these cool concert venues, which again gave it this cool like rock and roll vibe. It's like a lot more people than a regular show, but still small. They're on top of you. It's like it felt so much like I said, like rock and roll. It was a very cool move. And some of those shows are my favorite memories, those first NXT road shows, because fans were so ready around the country as like the network stuff. Yeah. And so they would pack, even 1,000, 1,500 people in this concert venue. And it was really, really cool.
Awesome. Now, in following all of this, of course, Simon Gotch got released, which I'd imagine had to be pretty difficult on you. I mean, working together for as long as you had at that point. But I guess it kind of seems like something was already lined up next, because Rusev Day became the next thing. And it seems to me something is always lined up next. And I don't know if that's exactly what the case was for you, but a lot of people that we've interviewed, a lot of people I've talked to over the years, there's always plan A, plan B, plan C. Is that pretty typical of how things go with, WWE in general? Do they always try and plan ahead a little bit, or do things just happen naturally?
Absolutely not.
No. Okay.
There was no.
Well, I've heard mixed things. That's why I'm.
So I mean, it depends on who you are. I mean, it's a pretty standard explanation. If you're Roman Reigns, they've got plan A through Z for you in case opponent this. For me, there was no plan B. They decided to release Simon, and there was no plan for me. That's money. Rusev Day didn't happen for 6 months after that, so like it wasn't like it happened right away. Yeah, man.
Happened by accident, didn't it really?
Yeah, it was 100% by accident. And so for me, right after that, it was just like, all right, what do you got? we'll start using you on your own. I don't know. We don't know where we're going to put you, but what do you got? And so I kind of brought back a similar thing to the artiste, but just kind of changed. I started introducing like the painting tights, which I'm actually super, super proud of. Thank you to my gear maker, Sue Katulski, who did an awesome job with those.
Shout out to Sue.
Hell yeah. And yeah, it was, so I had that. And so but I was able to, like, the vaudevillains were kind of drowning at that point. We were back, should be fair, when he got released anyway. We were both already talking about doing different things, to be fair. At that point, Simon was ready to try. He's the guy, you see him now, he likes to wrestle, you know what I mean? He knows every hold in the book, catch style, all this. And the vaudevillains at that point, we were pigeoned into being character kind of gimmicks, right? Which are fun and everything, and there's people who do it so well. I mean, like, look at Brizango, who do it so well and then can also back it up with being really good. Like, we weren't given that opportunity, and I don't think we were. I don't know. We weren't embracing the characters as much anymore.
You never had that NXT run together on the main roster,
basically. So yeah, we were both ready to kind of move on anyway. So I brought that, and then I was able to do a couple cool things with Ty Dillinger, like that summer, and I got to wrestle him a ton. Sean Spears, to this day, is probably my favorite opponent, and we wrestled all over the world that summer, like that, pretty much that next year, but a lot that summer especially. And then then Rusev Day was right at the end, kind of post SummerSlam. He was in the middle of a story with Randy Orton, and I just kind of got slipped in there for one thing, and then it.
What? That was another one of those things where I didn't know about it at first. When I was like, okay, and yet again, by the time it was over, I was hooked. I was in. So, and speaking of it, you guys came to where we film at, Fort Wayne, Indiana, right? And I remember how hot you guys were in that crowd when you came out. And that was the first time I got it. I obviously had seen it on TV, but that was the first time I got to experience it live, and just how loud those Rusev chants were. And you were right involved in that. I mean, we might have been cheering for Rusev, but we were cheering for both of you. When we were doing that.
It really did feel for a lot of it like a package thing. We were building something kind of unique on there, and I'm excited to go back to Fort Wayne, because I think I remember that one. That might have been the last time I was there. There is this really interesting gym there that the boys all went to, because it's like this big. It looks almost like it was an old department store or something, and there's like a pro shop up front, and there's this huge, like, there's a cage in back where you could do like turf stuff. I just remember all the boys went there. Like, Randy's bus was pulled out in front of it. I can't remember the life of me remember the name of it. It was actually really cool. I always liked finding cool gyms around the country. That was always a fun hobby of, like, mine and Chad Gable's.
I always felt like Fort Wayne was a hot crowd too. We were never a huge crowd. Like, that was why it was always in the expo halls and stuff. But, like, we were a rowdy crowd. We liked, we were loud, and that was, that was, like I said, that was the first time I'd heard how loud those Rusev chants were. And I was,
WWE only came
I think they
around
got
once.
something here.
WWE only came around once, maybe twice a year.
Yeah.
Back in the heyday, it was twice a year, because we get WCW, and then WWE would come like every 6 months.
Yeah.
And then it became years before we didn't have anything.
Yeah. And then the funny thing is, Heroes and Legends comes along, and then all of a sudden Vince wants to start doing more house shows. And it's funny because we've actually got it where we can't have a show within so many days of their shows or whatever, and that fortunately has allowed us to have a good spot with our upcoming show. So yeah, it's funny how those things work out, isn't it? The next thing that you did, you got to dabble in commentary a little bit. Out of it, let's just group it all together here. Out of your entire experience in professional wrestling, be it independence or all the way up to doing commentary, your favorite thing that you've done and the greatest moment that you have personally had in the business.
So, I mean, the greatest thing in general, I think for sure was Rusev Day. Like, just because, not just because it was popular, but because it was popular, I think because of how fans genuinely felt about the people involved. Not a forced storyline, not because of something else tangential. It was completely organic, completely unexpected, and like literally fan driven. So that felt very, very special. And to be able to do that for like a whole year, even though it was frustrating at times, because like you thought we were like baby faces, but then the company would make you like, no, you're mother heels, heels, all that stuff. And there's a lot of,
does that go back on the old man not really knowing what he has? You know, I mean, because he obviously had a way that he wanted you guys to be, but the crowd was like, no, we want him to be like this. It was almost like Vince was like, screw you, we were gonna make you go. It's gonna be like what I want, you know.
Right. So I think it's a balance of, so one, I do agree with that about when things like that happen, to not turning people too quick. Because then sometimes I think you do get in a situation where it becomes forced. So if like the minute they heard a one arena going, Rusev Day, and we would have been like drop kicking and baby facing the next week, I think we would have been dead on arrival. Sure. So like, that's fine. Let us kind of like, let's feel out this, like we'll kind of fight the grain, right? Maybe we'll keep getting cheered, but let us keep doing the heel stuff. Because sometimes that's what people like. They like the heels.
They like the bad guy, yeah.
Sometimes that's just the way it is. But there were a couple points along after months and months and months where I'm like, this is an easy opportunity to do the flip. This is an easy opportunity where you could, kind of turn it around. And like, I just didn't. I think more than anything, it's not that Vince is stubborn. Maybe, I don't know, but I think especially with a guy like Rusev, I think he did have an idea in his head that he liked about it. So it wasn't just that he was something, but he's like, he liked Rusev as the big, brooding, foreign bad guy kind of thing, right? He loves his big barrel-chested heels.
You know what people
and so I think, and I don't think he had a hard time changing that to the like just bringing Miro into the character of this guy who's a badass. Don't get me wrong, he's big and he's scary and everything, but he's funny, he's entertaining, he's charismatic. Sure. He's, God forbid, he's likable and stuff like that. So I think he just had a hard time breaking what he had in his head, because he liked what he had in his head. But there was just a lot of then fighting back and forth with us and him on that.
I'm glad he's kind of still treating Lana with the respect that she deserves, even though Miro's not there.
And she works hard. She does. She tries all the time to work on her stuff, for sure.
She's got so much. I mean, obviously, I love that when she'd come out with that Russian accent. I mean, that was great, But I do love that what she's doing now.
Yeah.
I like that Survivor Series deal when she stayed outside the whole time. Like, I thought it made, I don't know, it just was perfect for me. You know what I mean? I was like, because everybody else is working. She's like, what do I do? And then she wins it. Like that was just, I felt like that was, that was great stuff. But,
hell yeah, absolutely.
But speaking of you, right? So then obviously the day came, you got the call, the dreaded Connecticut phone call again, right? Yep. What was going through your head then?
So that was a really interesting time, really weird time. And because it was funny, because I remember talking to Greg Hamilton, like when everything got shut down, we moved everything to the Performance Center. We were hanging out in Florida, and he was just like, man, he goes, this is crazy. And he's like, you think they'll be letting people go and laying people off? And I was like, I was pretty confident. And I was like, no. I'm like, because I've been telling people for years, I'm like, what's happening? What's happened at the end of it? We've lost our live event crowds, right? Which will be a hit to business for sure. But for years, WWE in general it's not a live event company anymore. No. We don't make money off the house shows. You don't make money. You do a little, I guess, off the big pay-per-view crowds and stuff like that, and merch and stuff like that. So like I said, you'll take a hit, but all the money is the network and TV and advertising, right? Which can all be done as long as we can keep making TV in whatever way we can. We had these big deals on Fox and USA that we just signed. So I'm like, that money is still coming in as long as we produce content.
Right.
And overseas still has network television deals and everything like that. And then there's the WWE network, which was bringing in millions a month. So I'm like, in theory, I'm like, no, they shouldn't have to let anyone go. I'm like, because we'll take a hit, but like we'll be able to weather it.
Yeah.
And then sure enough, they did it. And like there was like some kind of, I remember Vince put out like a conference call or something that morning about like, oh, it's time to tighten belts and we're going to work together to get through this, but sometimes sacrifices have to be made. I'm like, oh God, here it comes.
Here it comes.
I'm like, here's cuts. And so I think my honest opinion is that they did not have to let anyone go. They could have taken the hit. I think. I know there's a lot of moving parts, but I think they could have taken a hit. But I think they used it as a cover, especially on the talent side, to kind of, I think, just do some cleaning house under the guise of COVID pandemic related cuts. We're hurting and everything like that. And I was
surprised at the names that were on that list. I mean,
some of them. Oh yeah.
You think like the Good Brothers, right? I mean, they just signed that contract for big money, right? I mean, ridiculous money.
Which is probably part of the reason why.
Yeah, they're like, almost the Bret Hart thing where they sent him to WCW, right?
Like,
but as a fan, I was like, wow, that was a big list.
Absolutely.
List.
And it didn't even, I addressed this the next day, because I had heard from it. There were a ton of people at corporate, employees, you know what I mean? Like who were either furloughed or let go too. And it was kind of mind blowing. And it was a very sad day for the business and for the company in general.
No,
you seem to have landed on your feet. Obviously, you got the Twitch thing going. It's going well. Live events are starting to come back. Obviously, you're coming to Fort Wayne, Indiana. When's the date, Sean?
April 24th. Heroes and
right.
Legends.
Heroes and Legends. Is this your first time at a Heroes and Legends event?
Yes, it will be.
It is.
You're in for
Definitely
a treat.
Is. Yeah, we have a great time, man. It's there's going to be quite a few people there that you probably even know.
I bet. Absolutely.
And of course, your match that you're going to have that night. I don't know exactly how familiar you are with old Pineapple Pete.
Pineapple Pete.
Sugar Dunkerton. He has been with Heroes and Legends. Before it was Heroes and Legends, we were actually the EWF, the Extreme Wrestling Federation. Before that, but Sugar has been with us since day one. Probably one of two people that I look up to the highest in this business as far as advice, information.
When he speaks, I shut up and listen.
Pretty much. He's got that. He's just that kind of guy, where if you've got a question or you've got a problem, he's that one of those guys that you can go to and it'll get worked out. So he has always been a pleasure. I don't know if you have any personal interaction with him or if you have had in the past, but the crowd is in for a definite treat with this match. You guys are going to have a blast.
Now you're making it hard for me to punch him in the face. Like, it sounds like I've never personally met him. He sounds like such a great guy. I know I got to kick him.
I don't know. I hear he's got an upcoming promo coming up, so we should have a video incoming. So that may change that entire tune. Maybe make his face a little bit more punchable. I don't know, but that'll be coming up pretty soon. So we'll make sure you get that when it comes out. But yeah, April 27th, Heroes and Legends 14, Fort Wayne, Indiana, the Allen County War Memorial Coliseum. We are back after a long absence. The fans have wanted us back. Tickets went on sale on the 7th, and the Ticketmaster is where our tickets go through. There was a long period of time where you couldn't even get in because people were getting tickets. They were at their computers as soon as tickets were on sale. So we've got a crowd that is really, really excited.
They're ready.
Yeah.
Fort Wayne's always been a wrestling town,
Sure.
We just got flooded there for a while with hundreds of independents running the same, and it killed us for a little bit. But you could tell people are ready. They're ready for the wrestling to come back to Fort Wayne. And
absolutely.
This card, including you, is something special. So.
Yeah, we've got a whole bunch of
IRS
people, like I
coming
said.
in. We got $1 Million Man coming in.
Chris
Oh, Mike,
Masters,
IRS,
Carlito.
man. I worked with Mike a lot in WWE. He was a producer for a lot of my matches. I always liked working with him.
Okay. It's almost like, and that's how we've done it. It almost feels like, especially for the guys, almost like a family reunion. When we
Yeah, no, I see. Like, I
person.
saw the poster and something. You seem like, oh shoot, I haven't seen him since then. I'm like, oh yeah, it is. It's like, oh cool, it'll be like a mini reunion with some of these guys.
Our very last show we did before we got shut down, we brought in the Stinger, right? Sting, and we had Lex Luger and everybody was there too. So I remember when Sting got to the arena, he went straight for Lex. He didn't go.
Oh, yeah.
He didn't go anywhere else. He wanted to go see Lex and then get into his seat, you know. And
and then Earl Hebner. It was like a line.
Yeah, and then Earl.
Exactly who he was going to. Well, yeah, we're excited that we had you on the podcast. We're even more excited that we're gonna be able to see you here in a couple of weeks in action, signing autographs, taking photos. It's going to be an absolute blast. Let everybody know where they can find you on social media, what they can find you doing. I mean, go ahead and promote the heck out of yourself. Tell everybody where they can find you.
No, absolutely. I appreciate it. And looking forward to April 24th. It is going to be a blast. Like I said, if you haven't seen it, I'll be sharing it on my socials and everything. Check out the poster. Just look at the cavalcade of names on there. It's going to be a fun time, I love it. Like, no matter what era, even if you're like, oh, I'm just an old school wrestling fan. Well, we got some of those guys coming in, but I only like new indie wrestling. We get like, I love that everybody is kind of appealed to, which is very cool as a fan. But for me, I'll be talking about it. And in the meantime, doing all my shtick, which my big thing, I'm on Twitch about 4 days a week. You guys can come and join me, twitch.tv/Drama King Matt. You can also use Drama King Matt to find me on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, all the same, all Drama King Matt. And then if you are 21 plus or of drinking age in your country of residence, I do a little thing called Wrestling with Whiskey. I have an Instagram and a YouTube for that as well. And I just started a podcast called Straight Shooting, where I send my wrestling buddies some whiskey, blind samples. They don't know what it is. They drink it, try not to spit it out. And then we kind of BS in between, talk life and wrestling and a little bit of whiskey. And it's a lot of fun. So keep an eye out. I got more episodes of that coming out as well on all your major podcasting platforms.
Speaking of that, we prepared for the interview and I got on the YouTubes, and I seen from your Twitch stream, you talking about the time you almost got fired before you got fired. So,
yeah.
And I love the story so much. To end this episode, can you tell us about that evening with the?
That's so
almost got fired.
One of those fun moments. The SmackDown, literally before WrestleMania 34 in New Orleans, literally the go home SmackDown, and it is the dark main event. And if there happens to be anybody who's unfamiliar, dark match, untelevised match. They usually do one before and one after the television taping. And it's usually, so no matter what happens at the end of SmackDown, if the heel's all bloody and beat up somebody, then we can send a big baby face out there, win a match, and go home happy, right? Yep. It's just a nice, quick, super low pressure, easy. I always liked doing them, even though you had to stay longer at the show. I always liked doing them because it was so low. It was like a house show. So low pressure. Go out there, hit a couple moves, basically,
get your pop
and then get the pop and get out, right? Yep. So we had, on this night, it was a 6-man tag team match. It was Baron Corbin, Miro, and myself versus AJ Styles and the Usos. And on the house shows and stuff, Usos have been kind of doing their own version of a super kick party as a fun spot to do on house shows and everything. So we're like, all right, we'll kind of finish off with something like that, right? And so we're like, yeah, cool. And so we kind of came up with this funny idea because we were such a ragtag team, right? Like it's me and Miro, who are already kind of an odd couple tag team, and then Corbin, who like we have no interaction with, and there was like just 3 heels just randomly thrown together. So I'm like, we have no alliances. So I'm like, I'm kind of Miro's second. So I'm like, what if he kind of throws me in the line of fire? And then I try to and then Corbin throws me in the line of fire. And we thought it'd be funny. I keep getting kicked, right? And they my own team, get back in there, throws me back in the ring, all this stuff. Goofy. People would do this in house shows all the time. I mean, you've seen any of the old Stone Cold stuff, but even in modern day, I would watch a lot of these matches, and it's a great spot for some comedy and some, again, things are just lighthearted to send people home happy. And so we did this. We were going to do this whole thing where we did it until I kind of finally get the original plan was I would get so fed up and stop the Usos, stop everybody. My partners roll back in. They go, what? Go fight him. I go, wait. And then I super kick Corbin and I super kick Miro. And then I go, yeah, like celebrate with the Usos. Yeah, well, with AJ. And then I turn around, like triple super kick, pin me 1, 2, 3, right? Comedy, character, fun, super kicks galore. Who doesn't win there? And so it kind of turned though, because the kick. And right when I'm going to yell stop at the Usos, the audience starts chanting like referee. So they're all like, the ref is a New England indie legend, Danilo and Fiblio. Like they're looking at him and they're, come on, look. And so AJ takes the ref shirt off and and he ends up super kicking Miro, and they all super kicked all three of us, I think, at the same time, kind of thing. And they covered us 1, 2, 3. Good night. AJ put on the referee shirt to count the 3.
I remember Miro kicks out to protect the
Miro kicks out to go. Always got to protect yourself. I mean, it's a referee still. One spot, but it's still a ref. Got to protect yourself, right?
Yeah.
And audience loved it. We go into the back and we just start getting reamed out. Vince wasn't there, so which already I'm like, who cares? Vince wasn't there, Hunter wasn't there, but like TR and the other producers are like, what are you doing? You're making a mockery. You're having like all this stuff. Like you're not protecting your characters. You're supposed to be going into a WrestleMania. And we're like, we're
off TV.
It's a dark match. There's no TV. People could film that. What if people post that online or whatever? You hit your own partner and all this stuff like that. We're trying to do something, kind of feeding us this BS. Like, you're not trying to do really anything with us right currently, first of all. And like, it's a dark match. You talk about Austin going out there and drinking 16 beers, giving Jericho the middle finger and stunning 15 people. Like, it didn't make sense either. But I don't know. Like, we got threatened with fines. With the poor referee he always kind of ends up at that. He's a nice guy, but he always ends up in like the wrong place, the wrong time. They were threatening to fire him and stuff like that. We had to get called. Like we landed in New Orleans, had to go right to like the green room to meet with TR. Of course, this is like 2 days later. And then, of course, after making us sweat with like, we're going to fine you like thousands of dollars. They're like, oh, well, look, we know you guys are just having a, but blah, blah, blah. They of course, they kind of let it go.
Yeah.
But then, I have no confirmation on this, but the rumor was that there was a fine kind of laid out for everybody in the match, but that when John Cena heard about it, he thought it was ridiculous too, that he willingly paid the fine. Whether he did that or he just talked him down. Yeah. But the rumor that got back to me was that John ponied up and said, F that.
That's not happening, yeah.
I'll pay the fine. Because John loved that kind of stuff. He loved that kind of wrestling.
Yeah, that's what it's meant to be. You're just you weren't entertaining the universe. You were entertaining the crowd at that moment.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. The people in the building that night, right? That's who it was for. It was a fun thing. And
that was my favorite part of going to a WWE like live show on TV. Like, yeah, you knew you were going to get your TV show, but like, what was going to happen when the camera went off, right? As a fan back, especially going back in the Attitude Era, right? The camera would always shut off, right? Like NWO's coming down to the ring to kick everybody's ass. We got to go, folks, right? So then I'm at home like, I want to see that. Like,
hell yeah.
So that, it always makes you want to go to the show. I just don't know why they hated it. That was brilliant.
I know it was
the kick party was brilliant.
Yeah, it was so much fun. And we just, like I said, we had already been like butting heads with the office over like trying to Rusev, give him a chance. Let's make him a babyface. Let's make this act a baby. So I think maybe it's just like kind of coming because we've already been butting heads. Maybe there was kind of a little bit of a hammer thrown down. Like, again, to this day, I don't really know. It was silly, but we had a lot of fun.
Like I said, I appreciate you coming on our show. I'm looking forward to Heroes and Legends, seeing you in person. I know I'll be there late myself. I have to work my shoot job right before I go there.
I will be there from the time the sun rises until way after it sets.
That was always my favorite part. I I was usually the first one in the building and the last one to leave, me and you. So
damn right.
But this time I gotta work. I gotta work beforehand. But I'll be there for the live show, and I look forward to meeting you in person. And like I said, I appreciate you coming on our little show here. You know, like I said, you got this big professional setup behind you, and we look like hacks now. But
oh, stop it.
We're gonna step up our game. Don't worry. Well, hey,
no,
Matt,
thank you guys for having me on. Absolutely. Hey, everybody, it's the Drama King here, Matt Rehwoldt, formerly known as Aiden English, the inventor of Rusev Day. And you guys are listening to Hotdog and a Handshake. And you better enjoy it and celebrate your day each and every day.